Very interested in this NFC West matchup between the Seahawks and the Cardinals, kicking off the NFL week on Thursday. Week 4, NFL. It is here already at the quarter point of the season for some teams. Or for these teams, I guess. So going to break these down. Before, it has just kind of been a little bit of read and react on these. But now we're a few weeks into the year, and we're starting to believe some of the stats that we're seeing. So going to put the stats a little bit more into this. And again, if you have any fantasy questions about this game or anything, throw them in the chat, and we will answer those as we kind of go along here. If it's not pertaining necessarily to the game that we're talking about at the time, I'll finish it up and then we'll get to that question, then we'll get back into the games. So I hope that makes sense for everybody out there. All right. Thursday night preview. It is the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Seattle favored by a point with the total at 43. The thing that I continue to kick myself over from the preseason into now is Seattle's defense, and not the most resistance against New Orleans in week number 3, but this defense has showed out in a couple of big time spots early in the year. And you look at the stats, they are 10th in defensive EPA per play. And just quickly what that means, for going to use a couple stats here: EPA per play and success rate. EPA per play, the best, try to explain it very, very quickly, is through looking at how drives have gone over the last entirety of football's existence. If you have a drive that starts at the 30-yard line, generally averaged out over whatever you are expected to get, 3 points, let's say, just for math's sake. But then if you get a play that gets you to the 50-yard line and it's 1st and 10 from midfield, well, now that drive's expected to get 5 points. So you have added 2 points in that. And so they take how many points you kind of accumulate and average it all out, and you get EPA per play. So it is just how you have kind of affected your team's chances of scoring more points. And then for success rate, a run or pass on first down, on 1st and 10, that picks up 5 or more yards is considered successful, because you're kind of keeping ahead of the chains a little bit. If it's less than that, if it's less than half of the yards to gain, or on 3rd down, less than the yards to gain in general, it's not considered successful, and they average them all together. So a very bad way of explaining it. I'll be better at explaining it when I'm not sick. But that's basically the stats that we're going to be using in this one. So for Seattle, again, the defense is at a high level right now. They're top 10 in defensive EPA per play, 4th in defensive rush EPA. And that was one, looking at the stats here, Arizona, the offense was just kind of mid throughout everything, but no James Conner. So Benson is going to get the workload in that running room. And I think this is where the Seattle defense can really start to limit things against Arizona, because the passing attack just isn't where it needs to be right now, with Marvin Harrison Jr. having a bit of the dropsies at this particular time. So if they can take that run game away and kind of force Kyler to be a passer and to be someone who is a bit more predictable, albeit like in his unpredictable way, but can force him into that, then I think you have a much better chance of succeeding. Arizona, they have been better throughout the season so far. They are, 10th in EPA per dropback this year. So the passing game has worked maybe a little bit better than the eye test would lead you to believe. But overall, they're 24th in success rate. It hasn't been the level of offense that you would want for this team this season. So I have some concerns there. So when Seattle is on defense, I think this team is really going to be able to shine. It is the matchup for Seattle offensively that I'm the most intrigued by. Arizona is 26th in defensive success rate, but they are 6th in rush EPA. So EPA per rush, basically. So it's not a defense that has been overly intimidating, but they have done pretty well against the run in the first few weeks of this season. So a bit of a tougher matchup for Kenneth Walker and company, but I don't think they generate the same kind of pass rush that gives this team problems. So I think Seattle's in a very good spot. I think they match up very well with Arizona here, and I like the Seahawks to take this one. So the pick here is Seahawks -1. From a fantasy football standpoint, I like Sam Darnold this week. I think you can actually roll with him and trust him as a starting play. Like we said before, this Arizona team is sneaky good against the run. So Kenneth Walker we're probably putting him in anyway as a flex option or as just a running back. Again, I can't imagine there are 3 better options than Kenneth Walker on your bench. And same kind of goes for Zach Charbonnet. I know we'll be excited to use him after missing last week, but I would hesitate on that one. And again, think that there might be some better options for you to roll with him this week. At receiver, JSN is a must start every week. He has turned himself into that. And Horton, if you saw my YouTube short that we did on the waiver wire, he's turned himself into a legitimate number 2 with the Seattle team. And so in deepish leagues, I think you can kind of roll with him. From a fantasy standpoint on Arizona, Kyler Murray, I would try to not this week. This is a very good Seattle defense. And so there's not a whole lot that I'm trusting here on Arizona. McBride is a must start, but Marvin Harrison Jr. probably not. Benson, I know we're excited because he's getting this opportunity, but this is a good defense. Again, 4th in defensive EPA per rush for Seattle. So I would try to not for Benson this week, going up against a very, very good Seattle Seahawks defense. So that's the pick and the fantasy advice from this one. Make sure you are staying up to date with everything on Couch Potato Diary by following me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky, all the places. You can find me at Primetime Klein.